training session of the site control. I am Valentina, the Customer Success Manager for Engie, main point of contact. And here with me is Clay Pleasure Unger, who's going to be the speaker for the day. He is Senior Product Manager here at Radian. This is the second session of this training. We're going to review the same topics that we did in the first session. And also, please be aware that the first 30 minutes of the session is going to be the explanation of the training. So if you have any questions, please save them for the second 30 minutes of this session. Okay? Clay, if you want to go ahead and start.
Right. Thanks, Valentina, for the introduction. Seems like the format maybe works a little bit better if I can take questions as we go along.
Oh, all right.
There's kind of a lot to cover, so I might have to hit pause on questions depending as we're moving along, just to make sure that we cover everything. But I will try to take questions as we go along. That seemed to work out more or less the last time. So here we go. I'll share my screen. All right, welcome everyone from Engie to today's training session, where we will be reviewing the land control feature set within the Engie environment. And just an overview, I guess. Let's see, Valentina already introduced me. I'm Clay Pleasure Unger, Senior Product Manager at Radian. And some of the goals for the training session today will be navigating throughout the Radian application, how to review your projects and land data, and a little bit about interacting with that data. And we will also be diving into reviewing payments and agreements. All right, so let's get into it. When you first log in to the Radian Engie application, you're going to end up on what we call the global map here, and your projects are represented by pins on this map. You can click on the pins to get information about the projects on the global map. You can also filter the projects that you're viewing by selecting the different tabs that are available here. So you can look at your different project statuses and technologies, solar versus wind. If you wanted to look at things that are development. There's also a grid view. So this is the map view. There's a grid view. These filters also apply to the grid view. And so now we're looking at development projects, and this is in the grid view. We can look at all resources in the grid view here. And you can also search here for your project names as well. And all right. And then another way to navigate into your projects is with the portfolio navigation menu here. Within portfolio, you'll have visibility or access to all of your projects in your portfolio. And I'll just point out that there's, if you have your mouse hovering over here, you can start typing and filter. Oh, I'm also in. Okay, you can start filtering the portfolio here. And so let's see, we'll go into, I'll take a project here from portfolio, and I'll just click on the project name here, and we'll navigate into a project, and I'll show you what this interface looks like. So this is the standard interface for projects. And so it's going to be the same view across all of your projects. But the data within this interface is specific to an individual project. So right now we're looking at New Moon. And There are different categories or modules that are available above the project name. Of interest to this group will be project overview and land. Within project overview, there are some intelligence data points that are available for quick review of what is happening in the project. So you can see some of the project metadata points available here. There's also a list of the team role assignments and project milestones data is available here as well. And we see some project tracker data points in here too. Let's navigate over to land. This is where you're going to have visibility and access to all of your project land data. One of the tabs that I find is kind of the most useful for having an overview of your land data is going to be the land entities tab that's available here. And I'll just point out that the concept of a land entity within Radian is sort of a unique concept. Outside of the Radian platform, an entity can mean lots of different things depending on the context. Within the context of Radian, a land entity is a very specific concept, and this concept is to use to organize your land data. So a land entity within Radian, you can think of it as a kind of like a folder that is organizing. There's landowner contact data, land parcel data, land agreement data, and then there are payment obligations that can be generated from those land agreements. So a land entity is used for organizing land contacts or landowner contacts, parcels, and agreements. And so in this interface, we are looking at this data for this particular project. And um, the uh, the reason that this is useful is that you need to have visibility on who the landowners are, or which contacts are associated to a parcel, and each parcel will have a defined ownership configuration. And so that's organized at the land entity level. And then a landowner can be associated to multiple land parcels, and they can have distinct ownership configurations across those parcels. So every unique ownership configuration, ownership configuration is defined at the entity level. So if you have a unique ownership configuration, that will be a unique land entity. And I'll show you a little bit more about land entities in a moment. We'll dive into that. Let's see. As we go along, feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. And so other tools or interfaces that are useful within the land module here. If you're only interested in looking at the land parcel data, you might want to check out the land master list. This table is only going to show the land parcels, and so we have visibility on all of the land parcels that are available within this project. We can see their area, acreage, and status. You have the ability to filter here, search, and export to Excel. Uh, in terms of land parcel data, the line list is also a very useful interface for reviewing your parcels. Um, the line list we now have the ability to group contacts or ungroup contacts. So the concept of a line list, and I'll just give that. Okay, so this is showing one row per parcel, and except we're not grouping by default, we're not grouping contacts. So if a single parcel is associated to multiple contacts, we'll end up with multiple rows for that parcel. If we wanted to limit this to be to actually just be one row per parcel, I could select this toggle here. There we go. Okay, and so now this is one row per parcel, and these contacts have been grouped together into the same row. So we have two contacts that are associated to this parcel. So this is a great interface for looking at your parcel information. And you can also see which land entity is associated to the parcel, and we can navigate into those entities as needed. In terms of contacts, there's a contact list available. Available. So we've got a reporting interface for contacts, and this report is going to show one row per contact, and a single contact can be associated to multiple parcels, and we have visibility on that here as well. Okay, so those are the land contacts and land parcels. The other important piece of information here is going to be the agreements. So we have an agreement tracker available at the project level. So we have visibility on all of the agreements that exist within this project. The agreement trackers are useful for interacting with your agreements and moving them through the land control agreement workflow. So there's a workflow in place in Radian for requesting agreements, and the workflow was designed to meet the requirements of NG's agreement workflow. So typically land agents are requesting agreements, and then the agreement will move through the various statuses or steps that are required to achieve execution. And so there are various teams that are involved in requesting and executing agreements, and they're part of the workflow, and those user roles have the ability to adjust the status of agreement requests within the workflow. And so agreement trackers were designed to provide the ability to interact with agreements at different statuses in the workflow. Okay, let's go back to land entities. And so just one more time to reinforce this concept, a Radian land entity is bringing together the landowner contact, the parcel, and the agreement data. So let's take a look at one of these entities, and I'll show you what that looks like. So just click on the name of an entity here. And so we're in the New Moon Wind project, and we're looking at 5MB Farms LLC land entity. Within this land entity, I observe that the landowner configuration is as follows: as 5MB Farms LLC. It has 100% ownership and 100% payment distribution, and this is a corporate entity. I also see that Michael Bole and Mingnan Bole are managing members of this corporate entity, and we see that relationship has been defined here. So these contacts have been captured in here for the purposes of managing any correspondence that occurs, but the payments have been defined to go to 5MB Farms. So in this instance, there's a corporate entity and the managing members have been established. There can be individuals, there can be spouses, a family. This configuration or this interface is designed to capture and establish all of that information related to the landowners and how they are associated to the land parcels that exist in this land entity. So let's look at land master list at the entity level, and there's one parcel in here. This is PID 422, 277 acres, and it's currently at status needs amendment. That indicates that there's an amendment has been requested on this parcel, but it hasn't been executed yet. Let's go to the entity agreement tab and we'll get visibility on the agreements that are available here. So we can see on this particular parcel 422, there's various amendments have been executed here. We don't have the history. It goes back to 2020. This data was seeded. At that time, it was amendment number 2. Amendment number 2 has since been superseded by amendment number 3, which is currently executed and recorded. Amendment number 3 was requested by Justin, land agent, on this date, and it's a TNC amendment. And Dave, I see you have a question.
Yeah, when you're seeing here amendment 2, 3, and 4, just because I think amendment 1 is probably prior to seating. It shows amendment 2 superseded. When you see the word superseded, does that mean that there were terms and conditions of amendment 2 that were changed by a subsequent amendment, therefore they're superseded? Or is it just amendment? Does that mean amendment 2 is older than amendment 3? Because to me, superseded means you got terms and conditions that are no longer applicable because they've been superseded by other terms and conditions on the same issue. Yeah. So what does superseded mean exactly?
Yeah, great question. So like the logic within the Radian application states that only an executed agreement can generate payment, will generate payments. And so superseded is not considered executed, or NG has 3 different statuses to represent executed. There's executed, executed out for recording, and executed and recorded. All 3 of those are considered executed statuses, where that is a signed, live, active agreement that can have payment obligations. Superseded is not an executed status. Therefore, any payment obligations from amendment number 2 are no longer active. If there were completed payments, those remain in the system on amendment number 2, but the payments from amendment 3, when amendment 3 got executed, that superseded amendment 2, and then payments were generated based off of amendment number 3. Now, you mentioned changes to the terms and conditions. In this particular instance that we're looking, or example that we're looking at on screen, this just happens to be a TNC amendment that was requested. For amendment number 3 was changing the terms and conditions of amendment number 2. NG has many different types of amendments. There's owner changes, TNC, you could do an acreage change, partial release, correction to a legal description, and termination is also considered a type of amendment. The concept for superseded here applies to all amendment types. In this example, it's a TNC amendment, but it could, you could have an owner change amendment. Well, when you have an owner change amendment, when that owner change amendment achieves execution, it's going to supersede the prior agreement. And so what that signifies in Radian is that at the moment of execution, any of the active payments or upcoming pending payments that were associated to amendment number 2 become removed because amendment number 2 goes to superseded. And then amendment number 3 is going to generate new payments. Amendment number 3 that is becoming executed, payments will be generated based off of the input variables for amendment number 3. Does that answer your question?
It does in a way. I'll give you a scenario, and the way I'm thinking about this. Let's say Amendment 2 increased the development period fee under an EWED, like the per acre development fee, and then EWED 3. I'm sorry, that was Amendment 2, increase the development fee amount, and then Amendment 3 changed the royalty payments during operations. If that's the case, Amendment 3 is not, superseding payments under Amendment 2. Would that mean that Amendment 2 would be executed? And Amendment 3 would also be executed because
No, you should not have you should not have 2 amendment versions that are executed, even if Amendment 3 is only changing royalty payments and the project's in development. So those royalty payments, they haven't been, the project's not at COD.
Right.
Those payments have not been triggered yet, or they
Right.
haven't been scheduled. So they're still associated to amendment number 3. So that's fine. Amendment number 3 could take all of the same development terms from amendment number 2 and only change royalty terms,
Yeah,
those are going to be contained within amendment number 3.
got it. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, good question. Another question from Isabel.
Yes, thank you. So in summary, in that agreement tracker, everything that is executed, it's based for payments, right?
Not every agreement necessarily generates payments, but yes, typically in Engie's use case, when you're executing an agreement, there are payment obligations that are associated to that agreement. So yes, only, and I guess to answer your question is only an executed agreement would generate payment obligations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so just continuing with this sort of discussion. So here we see amendment number 4 was requested by Sarah on this date. It's another TNC amendment, so additional changes to the terms and conditions. This request for amendment number 4 is currently at status paralegal amendment available. And so this is somewhere in the workflow between being requested and being executed. The payments from amendment number 4 have not been generated yet because this request has not completed the agreement workflow and has not achieved status executed. And we've got visibility on that. Let's just flip over. I'm going to the compliance tab here, and here I can see the payments from this uh, from this agreement, and there's a yellow triangle next to these payments. This is indicating that this is indicating that there's a little tooltip that shows me that the agreement is under amendment. So if I were looking at processing a payment, I would have a flag here showing, oh, this payment is under amendment. I could go to this entity and I could see what is happening, where is, what amendment has been requested, what's its status, do I want to go forward with making that payment, knowing that the agreement is under amendment. I have a decision that I can make based off of that information. All right. Let's see. Talked about. Okay, so let's discuss. Just briefly look at how would we manage this information? How do we make adjustments? I can go to Edit View here. If I needed to change the landowner configuration, I would go to Edit View. And here are the contacts that are associated to this project. I could search for a contact here and I could add them to this configuration. I could make adjustments to who is getting paid, and then I could submit this, and I would update the data that's available here. If there's a new contact, I could also add new contact from this interface as well. Just to point out quickly that if I were to make a change here to this configuration, that would not immediately change my payments, because payments are generated when an amendment achieves, or when an agreement achieves execution. When an agreement achieves execution, it's going to take the landowner configuration, it's going to take the parcel data, it's going to take all of the inputs from the different terms that were abstracted into the system from the agreement document. It's going to make all those calculations, it's going to generate the payments. So the generation of payments occurs at that moment when an agreement is executed. If I were to change the landowner configuration here, the system would alert me that there was an update here that's pending the execution of an amendment or of an agreement to apply those changes to the payments. And so typically, like, if there was an owner change, land agents usually initiate owner changes. They would apply the ownership change and request the owner change amendment. The changes that they applied and requested do not get applied to the payments until that request achieves execution. Okay. Let's move along to show you some of the global tools, and I want to show you Payment Manager as well. So we've been looking within a specific project. I'll just point out that from the features navigation menu, there are a lot of tools that you have available, and these tools will be providing you perspective on your data across the portfolio. So they're not project specific. So for example, the agreement tracker from the features menu is the global agreement tracker. We're looking at your agreement data across the entire portfolio. I'll just point out that the ENGIE's has many agreements. It's approaching 10,000. By default, we hide some of the statuses just to improve the performance or the load time of this. But if you wanted to look at everything, you can shift click or control click to select all of the statuses. So these are all of the different statuses in your system, and I've selected all of them. And so now I'm loading every single agreement that exists across your entire portfolio. You can also filter by project status, who the status owner is. So who is required to take action on that request. So if you're paralegal and you wanted to see which agreements were assigned to you, you can filter that here. There's also a search bar here, so you can further search if we were looking at, you could search for a project name, you could search for, what we were looking at, BOLE. You could find everyone for BOLE. So this is also a great way to, if you're trying to track down some information, you don't necessarily know where to start, a global agreement tracker might be a good place. Okay, moving along, there you have an extension tracker for keeping track of your extension requests. Extension requests are initiated on the land agreement expiration tracker. This tracker is going to provide you with visibility of your agreements that are going to be expiring or have recently expired. And there's a chart available here. There's also a table available below. So we can see project status, again, the land entity, and expiration date is available here. By default, this is showing things that are expiring within the next year. If you want to, you can filter, you can go out. Currently, this is limited to going out by 195 days, but if I were to select projects that are in development, things that are expiring within the next 3 years or so, I can get that data here. And again, this chart and table is exportable to Excel. If land agents are also typically responsible for requesting an extension, so they should be actively monitoring for their agreements that will be expiring in the near future. NG Work Standard Procedure says that an extension should be requested within Radian for that. That's requesting an extension is submitting a request to extend. That request will need to get approved before the extension is actually triggered, and that would then generate any payments that are associated to that extension. So that workflow commences on the expiration tracker here. Let's see what else is interesting. There's a stale tracker. This is useful for having visibility on your requests that are moving through the workflow, but have gotten stuck or stalled at a certain status. And so we've got visibility on what is considered stale at certain statuses. And then we've got, scroll down to, here we go. So we can see where things have gotten stuck in the workflow. So if something let's see, this is, if something's out to landowner and it's been out to landowner for a really long time, we've got visibility on that here. If it's been out to the landowner for 113 days, it's time to call them up, or maybe that one's not coming back. Anyways, we've got visibility on agreement requests that have gone stale in the workflow. All right. Let's see. In the interest of time, I'm going to pivot over to Payment Manager. And so this tool available from Features, Payment Manager, Payment Manager. This tool is designed specifically to provide visibility on your land agreement payment obligations. There's some forecasting tools built in here. There's payment lookup, and then Payment Manager is also really about processing your payments. So organizing and processing your payments. So there's a workflow for approving payments that initiates here in Payment Manager on open commitments, and your development coordinator will compile or your payment coordinator will compile batches of payments that we call payment collections, which will move through the approval workflow to get those payments approved. Once payments are approved, let's see if we've got, go. So here are some development payments that were recently approved and submitted to SAP for processing. And many of these payments have already come back as being paid, and we have visibility on those details here. So just quickly at a little bit of a high level, payment collections are used for batching your payments and then moving those payments through the payment workflow to be issued to the landowners. A really useful tool within Payment Manager is going to be the payment lookup tool. And so if you're interested in, you're trying to figure out what's happening in a particular project, let's see, something in development, what's something wind do this is development. All right, so if we're looking at Black Spruce Wind, and let's just say we want to see everything from this year. Go. And so these are all of the payments from this project, and we have visibility on who they were paid to, when they were paid, and payment details. Exported to ERP indicates that the payment was initiated in Radian, and it was submitted to SAP for being paid. Let's see, there's payment on hold. Let's move along so through the end of the year, all of these payments have been paid, so that's great. And then let's say maybe we wanted to look at 2025, and we want to look at the first quarter of 2025. Oh, nothing due in the first quarter. Let's go out a little farther, I guess. Oh,
They've
I'm
already
doing
been put into a collection.
2024.
That's why you can't see them.
No, I think I had the wrong year here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There we go. I was filtering from 2025 to 2024. Now I'm filtering the first quarter in 2025. And yeah, so as Kathy pointed out, we've got payments that are already queued up. So intent is to issue these at the beginning of January. And we can see that they're already in a payment collection. And then going farther out into February, we can see some of the payment obligations here. And all the way through the end of March. So you can find payments based off of when they are due by the project. You can filter by project status. So if I was to look at, if I want to see everything pre-COD, I would select these statuses here. Maybe I'm interested in only projects that are in the United States. Project status is just going to pre-select the project list here. And so maybe we'll just do the month of January, and then we can see all of these payments here. So this is all projects that are in development and all payments that are due in January. And Kathy already has all these payments in a collection already, except for Aaron Alt. Okay. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions?
I think the meeting ends
Oh,
in
you're right.
20
It's not on
minutes.
the
Yeah.
hour. 20 minutes. Oh, we still got plenty of time. Okay. Any questions? Okay, seems like we're moving a little bit faster than last time. Let's see. All right, so let's say I was looking at this Met Tower payment in Midway, and just I want to validate that this is the correct payment. So I can see here on this PID, we've got 3 payments on the same parcel going to 3 different landowners. And so if I wanted to look into this a little bit more, I'll just click on the entity name or the agreement type here. I'll do the entity name, and I'll just open this up in a new tab. And so now we're diving into this project and this entity. And so here we can see the payment distribution is split 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 across 3 landowners. And we can see information about this parcel. So it's 320 acres. let's see what's happening with the agreement. So there was an amend and restate, and this was signed. Let's see, we could go to view edit terms here. And we can see that the A&R was signed back in 2021. There's some of the details about the period duration here. And so development is going to go to, it's got a fixed date for the end of development, 2028. And then there's a 10-year construction period followed by operations. And again, a little bit of an overview of the landowners, and the parcel information is available here as well. I'll just click back into the entity name here and point out that there's a view edit file is available here. And so this is a file, and we'll see if this is still linked. And it is. And so this agreement file, this is the scanned PDF of the executed agreement. This file resides on Engie's external file system, which is ShareFile. And the Radian application has what we call a file sync to ShareFile. And so what we're actually doing here is Radian is not storing this file. This file is stored on Engie's ShareFile, but Radian has a sync that exists, so we can point to this file and then provide access to this file via that sync or integration with your external file system. And so standard procedure is to link, when an agreement gets executed, to link the file. And so then you can download and open the file. So if for whatever reason you wanted to confirm, oh, just want to double check in the agreement, you should be able to easily access, or easily and quickly access, the actual agreement document. And then we could go into here and find payments and so royalty payments, construction, installation. Here's Met Tower. So the Met Tower is showing that there's a $1,000 annual payment due in the development period for Met Towers. And if we look at compliance, we can see that there's a $1,000 payment that's being split equally between the 3 landowners. And that is visible here. And we can search for Met. And we can see is 2025 payment, 2026, and 2027 payments going into 2028 are available here. And so let's see what other payments. And then there's a development period fee. It's also being split equally between the landowners. And it looks like they're getting the flat fee is $1,500 split 3 ways. And so we could double check that in the agreement if we needed to, as well as development, $1,500 per year, or $3 an acre, whichever is greater. Okay, so that's how you can jump from, if you're track down a payment and then you want to validate it, you can jump over to the land entity and access the agreement file and also confirm acreage and landowner configurations. Okay. Let's take a look at back in Payment Manager. There's also a payment forecast tool. And this shows the total amount per project that is due within a certain date range. So by default, this is going out 1 month. We can make adjustments here. Can also filter, again, if you only wanted to look at pre-COD projects, oops, you could select that here. And then we've got visibility on development construction projects and the total payments that are associated to those projects for the defined date range. Okay. Just pause for a moment. Any questions? Is there anything specific that anyone wanted to see? Still have about 15 minutes left. Otherwise, I'll continue navigating around. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes, as a matter of fact, where you were in the features.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw well that you have an IFRS, but this is just for some users, right? Because I was looking at my profile and I don't have that one.
Yeah,
IFRS.
right. I'm logged in as an administrative user. So you will see some things on my screen that you do not have, may not have permission to. But there is IFRS reporting that occurs in Radiant.
Okay.
Okay, I mentioned agreement expiration and the extension tracker. We didn't take a look at that yet, so I can show you the extension request tracker. So if an agreement has an extension available, an extension can be requested. This is another type of workflow that exists within your system. And so there's an approval process for approving extensions. And so these are requests that are moving through the process of having an extension applied to an agreement. And so this helps track and manage the different steps that are involved with extending an agreement. So legal needs to review the agreement, make sure the extension is valid, determine what the requirements are for the extension, if there's a letter that needs to be sent, or maybe the letter needs to go with payment to extend an agreement. Those decisions are made here and then tracked here. We have some visibility on things that are complete here. So by default, we're hiding some of the things, but we can see, so just earlier today, there were agreement extensions that were triggered. So notification letters were sent, which was the triggering event for several agreements, and that just happened earlier today. So this is the agreement extension request tracker. Let's go back to a project. We're looking at New Moon. Can use that. Couple other interfaces that provide useful perspective on your land data within a project would be the metrics tab in the land module. I think there's quite a few parcels in this project, so I'll just give this a minute to load. All right. And so here we've got visibility on some of the metrics for your land parcels in terms of acres or quantity of parcels that are at different statuses. So whether they're targeted, signed, expired, got visibility on that here. Some assigned land metrics. We can see total signed. We can also see recent land that was signed. Got visibility on that here. We can track. Want to see things that were signed in the last 6 months. You can see something 3,000 acres. So here we go. And so these are the specific parcels that achieved status signed within the last 6 months. And then there's also installation data, also known as assessment data. So this typically represent installations on the land parcels. So we can see the instances where there are Met towers. So we've got visibility on that here. So there's 5 different Met towers, and these are the parcels that they're installed on. So we would expect there to be land payments associated with these installations. And we have visibility on that here. So this can also be used to track once a project moves into construction or operations. If there are wind turbines, those would be considered installations and would have visibility on the number of wind turbines that are installed per parcel. That information is available on the installation tab. All right. Let me double check the agenda, make sure I didn't skip over anything. Okay, seems like we covered everything. We can wrap a few minutes early. I'm happy to stay on in case anybody has any questions, but I'm not hearing anything. So thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate your attendance. As always, please feel free to reach out to the Radian team if you have any questions about anything going forward.
Thank you, Clay.
Thank you so much, Clay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.